Edge tonight. The search for Sandra Cantu's killer continues. The investigation has taken them to a nearby church. They spoke with the pastor of the church for 3 hours. They took some things from his home. He lives in the same mobile home community that Sandra lived in as well. The family has spoken for the first time. The grandfather has come out and said there's a monster on the loose, and it has everyone concerned. Let's go to Bailey in California, who has a question. Bailey?
Hi, Vinny. How are you today?
Very good.
Very good. You know, what I wanted to say is I was born and raised in Tracy, and we have never had anything like this happen in our community. My heart goes out to the family, and I really hope that justice comes through, and it comes through quickly. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Bailey. Thanks so much for the call. And that's the way the entire community feels tonight. Let's go to Steve Cardina, a former police detective. They've searched the church. They've searched other places. You know, how... The autopsy is not going to be done now for 4 to 6 weeks is what we're hearing. So how much of the investigation can go forward until you get those results from the autopsy?
Well, Vinny, to be quite honest with you, I believe that it's likely that they have a cause of death. It's the toxicological test that will take 4 to 6 weeks. But if they have some type of an injury to that child or a cause or a means of death, they know it already.
All right, Pat Brown, criminal profiler. Obviously, he's not a suspect, he's not named, but he's questioned for 3 hours, has spoken to the media, this pastor, and is very open and says, listen, if they can eliminate people, please eliminate us, we'll give all the information we have to give. Yet they're looking at the church and they're looking at his home. Does someone like that, and I'm not saying this particular man, but someone like that fit a profile? Someone who works in a church?
Well, it could be. We simply don't know who it is. A child predator, a sex offender, a serial killer.
Do you think
it doesn't really matter where they were?
Did they have to know this child beforehand? Do you think it's more likely that the offender knew the child?
I believe that offender did come from the park, and that's one of the interesting things about sex offenders is they often troll the areas they live in because nobody is really suspecting them. This is a guy you see every day. It's Dan. He's walking down the street. You don't think, oh gosh, there's a strange guy in the neighborhood. So all he has to do is wander around on his routine basis, and then one day when he's got a window of opportunity and this child comes out and he looks around, nobody's around, or maybe she comes toward him and just it's an empty street, he grabs her. That's all it takes. And so people don't realize that this guy is one of the people they probably do know.
Okay, I was just thinking about that video. The video is on the parents' home, faced across the street to the grandfather's house. Because apparently somebody was breaking into his van or something, and he decided that he wanted to tape it, or, you know, to video his home to see if he can catch who's doing it. So the video is on Sandra's home, pointing at her grandfather's house, which means that when she left to go from her house to go play with her friend, she actually went across the street, if I'm looking at this video correctly, and then decided to walk down the street. So she skipped across the street from Grandpa's house. Possibly somebody said something to her from her house if she turned her head, and then she proceeded down the street. So whoever watches this video, you know, let me know what you think.
That we're hearing is that she was at one friend's house and on her way to another friend's house. Do we have any more specifics about who these friends were and whether or not she ever made it to those homes?
We don't have specifics on that. We know that she was at one friend's house, then she came back to her house, and then she was leaving, and that was supposedly the video that was released of her finally leaving her house. We do know that you were speaking about the pastor. The pastor did say yesterday that Sandra was at his house all the time playing with his great-granddaughter and that they were very close friends. But the uncle made it clear at the news conference this morning that it's a very close community inside Orchard Estates. The children know each other, the adults know each other, so it's not surprising for children to wander around by themselves from one home to another.
Sure.
That makes it leads to even more questions.
Steve Carney, I want to ask you about what Dan just told us. She's been in the house of this pastor before. If they're gathering evidence there, there probably will be some evidence that she had been there because she had been there. So perhaps they'll find some evidence that this girl was there, but does that help the investigation or hurt the investigation?
Well, by the mere fact that she's been in that residence before, I think you're going to find more, that you're going to see DNA, touch DNA,
hair and fiber analysis that's going to be found in that suitcase that's going to tie it back to the location where that child may have been or was killed.
All right, thanks to our panel. You know, the U.S. may soon be taking part in direct talks with Iran.